Donald Trump seems to be turning his back on previous US policy when it comes to Ukraine, saying in a Fox News interview on Monday that the country may or may not be Russian someday. Mr. Trump also said he has told Kyiv he wants something in return for ongoing US assistance. Have a listen.
They have tremendously valuable land in terms of rare earth, in terms of oil and gas, in terms of other things. I want to have our money secured because we're spending hundreds of billions of dollars. And, you know, they may make a deal, they may not make a deal, they may be Russian someday, or they may not be Russian someday, but we're going to have all this money in there. And I say, I want it back.
Well, in response to those comments, Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov said Tuesday, quote, a significant part of Ukraine wants to become Russian and has already become Russian. Well, look, Poland not only shares a border with Ukraine, it also shares the wish that Russia will ultimately not win this war.
And today we end in Ukraine, where President Volodymyr Zelensky gave an interview with British media house The Guardian, where he stressed NATO's role in the region. President Zelensky said Ukraine's security guarantee would be incomplete without the United States. And he further added that the Trump administration should meet Ukrainian officials before a meeting between President Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin is finalized. Now, the White House and the Kremlin have been holding discussions on when the two leaders could possibly meet. And with the interaction expected soon, President Zelensky has offered a resolution to the conflict, which includes a land swap deal.
We will swap one territory for another. I don't know, we will see. But all our territories are important. There is no priority.
President Zelensky has offered to exchange the territory his troops hold in Russia's Kursk region in exchange for Ukrainian territory that has been captured by Russian forces since the war first began back in 2022. On Monday, President Donald Trump spoke to Fox News where he said Ukraine could someday be Russian, a sentiment that was received well in Moscow but sparked fury in Kyiv. President Trump also stressed striking a rare earth minerals deal with Ukraine as part of the truce agreement.
You talked with Zelensky this week, sir?
Yeah, probably.
By telephone, what's your message?
He wants to make a deal. Let's see. We'll see. We're dealing with him, and I think they both want to make a deal, but we'll have to see. It's got to be done.
What is Zelensky going to
Would have never happened if I were president. This would never have happened. Millions of people are dead.
Kellogg going to Ukraine this week, sir, or soon?
Yeah, he is. Keith Kellogg. General Kellogg is an excellent guy, and he's spending time doing various things. We have numerous people working on numerous different problems. You know, when I left office, wasn't long ago, a little more than 4 years ago, we had no wars, we didn't have problems. Now we got the whole world is blowing up.
Now, President Zelensky's land swap offer is a monumental shift in Kyiv's stance on territorial concessions. However, it is well known that Ukraine ceding territory to Putin has long been a part of President Donald Trump's plan, who often claimed that he would end the war on day one of taking office. Now, despite the flurry of talks and concessions, the roadmap to an eventual peace agreement remains murky and elusive. What is clear, if Donald Trump is the master negotiator he's always touted, those skills and more will sorely be needed to find an end to the nearly 4-year war.
This is the Nations Conspire channel. Welcome to today's show. It's as if we're playing the game of Risk, the board game where the goal of the game is to occupy every territory on the board. The only difference from the game of Risk and what we're seeing happening on a world stage is that everything that's happening on the world stage is pre-planned. These countries who are going to give their land over to other countries is all done by design. It's not by forfeiting land or threats of war. It's the globalists working together to create new territories. And of course, they have to convince you that there's powerhouses like Russia who are taking over the land and becoming a threat to America, because this is about creating 10 kingdoms, the 10-kingdom plan. And before I get into detail what you're seeing going on with now all of a sudden Ukraine being willing to give up their territory, little by little you'll eventually hear that they've had to forfeit the land of Ukraine over to Russia, because this is exactly what the map shows us the plan has been for a very long time. I just want to let people know that I'm uploading new content over on my brand new channel, Ones That Can See. I have it linked below. If you haven't subscribed to it yet, make sure you subscribe, because if you don't know what's going on, there's already been multiple channels removed off this platform in the last 30 days that I have had, which have had about the same amount of subscribers as this channel. This channel is not long for this world. So if you haven't subbed yet, sub. I have a brand new video up over there about under the skin surveillance and everything going on with Project Stargate that you have to see. It is very, very important that people wake up to what they're trying to do with this AI governance infrastructure. So that is linked below. And for anybody out there that wants to type in the channel to find it, it is called Ones That Can See. And my other channel behind that I am trying to build out as well is called Sheeple Syndrome. So make sure you're subbed. The links are below. Don't miss out and don't lose my content because you don't feel like subscribing. If you like my content, you want my content, make sure you do that now before it is too late. So when we're talking about the 10 Kingdom Plan, all of a sudden in 2025, we're not even 2 full months in. We're not even 30 days into Trump being put back into power. And we've already seen these chess pieces being moved around that are showing us the 10 Kingdom Plan, right? Immediately, as soon as Trump gets in, he wants to buy Greenland. All of this story about red, white, and blue land is what they want to call this absolute charade that they're pulling off. Red, white, and blue land, right? All of the MAGA crowd, all the conservatives turning a blind eye to what they're actually doing with the expansion of territory. This, again, is part of the Club of Rome's plan. On top of that, Trump trying to turn Canada into the 51st state. And when you look at the map, you can see how this is playing out exactly how they designed, with 10 kingdoms. And this is biblical in the book of Revelation, chapter 17, verses 12 through 13. And the 10 horns which thou sawest are 10 kings, which have received no kingdom as yet, but receive power as kings 1 hour with the beast. These have one mind and shall give their power and strength unto the beast. And now, in addition to the stuff you're seeing with the United States of America, Canada, and Greenland, you're also seeing Zelensky proposing to trade land with Putin. They've carried this out for 4 years, this charade going on over there, where really a lot of what's going on over there is just a controlled demolition, so to speak. Zelensky is now proposing to trade land with Putin, right? That was something that wasn't even discussed over the last 4 years. And of course, Russia immediately responds to swapping land, saying they will not swap land with Ukraine. In fact, after that was offered, Russia launched a quote-unquote deadly attack on Kyiv, Ukraine's capital, and ruled out swapping occupied territory. That's because they won't be swapping territory. This is part of the plan for Russia and Ukraine to merge as one. And that's why you also hear Donald Trump saying that Ukraine may be Russian one day, as he hints at a rare earth minerals deal. And part of that narrative where you see Trump bringing in the 10 Kingdom Plan is that people are dismissing what's going on with Ukraine merging with Russia as a rare earth mineral deal because Donald Trump's a businessman. This isn't about carrying out New World Order plans. This is about business. This is how they're trying to pass some of this stuff now onto MAGA and conservatives, as if this is a good business deal for America. Conquering Greenland, a good business deal for America because they're rich in resources. Acquiring Canada as part of America, a good business deal for the United States of America. This is how people are turning a blind eye to the North American Union. This is how people are turning a blind eye to Trump's role in Russia acquiring Ukraine. And if you actually look at that 1942 map that I discussed, the post-war New World map, which they were calling the New World Moral Order. That's what the map included, a manifesto that described a New World Moral Order. And what were the territories in that? Well, the Soviet Union, the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, the Soviet would expand to be a far larger territory than its current size. And if you look at the countries that have to be conquered in this, you could see that Ukraine is right on that list. And you know what else is on that list? Poland is on that list. And isn't it interesting the role that Poland plays in all of this? We've heard whispers over the last couple of years of how a key ally of Putin said he wants to invade Poland next, ignoring Russia's inability to capture Ukraine. Putin ally warns enemy, Poland, you risk losing your statehood. And in the last 24 hours or so since Donald Trump has started discussing how a deal could be made where Ukraine gives up territory to Russia, that the president of Poland is coming out saying this cannot happen. Russia must not win, because they're already hinting at after Russia is given Ukraine, that Russia will then come for Poland. And how convenient that part of that blueprint, that 10 kingdom map, has Poland as a part of this Russian territory. So back to some of the whispers about Ukraine and what they're getting out there. Now, all of a sudden, after years and years and years of telling us that Ukraine would not give up, that we couldn't allow Ukraine to give up, now Donald Trump is bringing all of this stuff in by design. Zelensky said he was prepared to relinquish certain territories occupied by the Russian army. This comes at a time when his own army is struggling to contain the Kremlin's armed forces, and the population's morale is low after nearly 3 years of devastating war. The challenge now lies in securing the country's territorial integrity after the war. However, the main problem today is that the key question for Ukraine, what will protect us from the next Russian attack, remains deliberately unanswered. Of course, that's because what will happen next is Ukraine will just lose. They will lay down and they will merge with Russia. We could potentially even see, finally, this false flag, fake assassination attempt on Zelensky. Because remember, I've talked about this for years now. They've been telling us that Zelensky, this actor, who, the guy was an actor before he became president, how convenient, just like Trump. Before, they put him into power, and the whole narrative when this war started was that Russia wanted to get to Zelensky. They kept saying it. Russia's looking for Zelensky. Zelensky has to hide out. And then all we saw were things like Zelensky showing up at the Grammy Awards, Zelensky in a supposed underground bunker with U2, the band, all these celebrities from America who get flown over there to go and hang out with Zelensky, from Ben Stiller to Sean Penn to Angelina Jolie, right? I mean, if they wanted to find him and kill him, they would have done it by now, right? But all the buildup, of course, is for potentially it to end that way. Something along those lines where they don't have a choice and they have to give in to Russia and merge as one. And then Russia can turn its attention over to Poland. Donald Trump even said he's going to have to do what he has to do when discussing Zelensky ceding Ukraine territory, right? And all the stories out there. What's Ukraine going to do? Ukraine needs to barter a deal. But as all those stories are coming out about Ukraine making a deal, Russia is openly saying, we're not going to make a deal. We don't want a deal. We want it all. And we're going to take it all, right? So we know based on the map, and we know based on the obvious, where Russia could have ended this a long time ago if this was a real war, the size of Russia and their military and the they could have ended it a long time ago, right? But they've let it play out. They've built the PSYOP out over and over and over with all these narratives over the year of the poor Ukrainian people, all the money. Of course, there's so many things that tied into this Ukraine-Russia war as far as the psychological aspect. I mean, how many people in America are so anti-Ukraine, right? Because they hear that all we're doing is sending our tax money to Ukraine. You see these complete brainwashed fools, I'm sure in your neighborhood, you see them all around, who have Ukrainian flags hanging on their mailbox or on the front porch of their home, completely oblivious to who Ukraine really is and how corrupt of a so-called country that Ukraine is. Ukraine is controlled and operated by the United States government. Let's be real. The CIA runs and controls Ukraine, and they're not going to hesitate when it comes to giving up and laying down to Russia, because these globalist intel agencies are working together to bring about this blueprint. They're convincing you that these things are happening by design, that this country's attacking that country. The only things being attacked are the people. Civilians are being attacked by military. Military are doing it all around the earth right now, whether they're doing it via directed energy weapons or smart meters in America where they're burning people's towns to the ground, or in other countries where they're saying that these two militaries are at war with each other, but they don't seem to be shooting at one another. They just seem to be bombing buildings that civilians live in, which by definition would be war crimes, right? You know, war crimes, the hilarious concept that they have that there's actually crimes within war. I mean, it's amazing that the people don't hold the governments accountable for all these wars that have been waged on the people. Because that's all that war is. But people have this visual in their mind that it's like one of these Hollywood movies where there's the US Army all dressed up in camo, and there's the Russian Army all dressed up in camo, or whoever it might be, the Germans, right? And they go to war with each other, and they're just battling on the front lines. And whoever's left, whoever has more people left at the end, standing wins. That's not what war is. That's the illusion of war. None of these people are affected by the crossfires. All it is two countries saying that they're at war with one another. Well, they control demolition the entire area that they claim to be at war with. Oh, we're going to wipe out this, we're going to wipe out that. You see all these buildings getting destroyed, but you don't see any of these guys on the front lines in the middle of a field somewhere shooting at one another, because these wars are obviously waged on the people. And it's really just a big land grab right now where they're taking and occupying land that civilians are in to get them out when these governments are working together to bring about the 10 Kingdom plan. None of these countries are opposed to what's going on. The leaders, the people are opposed. The leaders are not opposed. They just play a role. Like the president of Poland. Oh, we're on Ukraine's side. Oh, if Ukraine falls, we're probably going to go to war with Russia, right? They're just actors telling you what's happening, but it's not really what's happening. These governments are working together to literally wipe out civilian life, to seize land from civilians and herd humanity, so to speak. No pun intended. So it really is like the game of Risk. The only difference is that in the board game of Risk, you're actually making decisions independently, I think, when you're playing the board game, right? You're deciding what territory you want to occupy while you're moving your pieces around. Well, they already know the outcome of how all of this is going to look because there's maps that show us the blueprint of how it's going to look. So they're not really moving anything around. What they're doing is psychologically working you into believing that this is naturally occurring. Because if the people realize that the governments were conspiring against us to bring about this 10 Kingdom plan, well, the people might rise up against it. So they keep you in fear, thinking that your country could be next, that these big bad boogeymen like Putin and Trump, they all exist, and we better, okay, these guys are crazy. Let's stand back here and watch as they do what they're supposed to do, defending our country. They're not defending any of us. What they're doing is conspiring together to strip us of our rights and to destroy our lives for the most part. And that's what we see going on. So they're talking now about deals being made. The outcome is not going to be that Ukraine still stands and some of the territories are given to Russia. All of Ukraine will become Russia, just like Donald Trump said. I mean, he openly said it, that Ukraine may be Russian one day. Well, of course they will be. While Donald Trump tries to buy Greenland and convince people that Canada should become the 51st state, all these things that he's doing where we could show everyone that this is the blueprint of the Club of Rome, this is the blueprint of the Council of Foreign Relations, all these, Bilderberg, all of them have this map, okay? Then they show us the 10 territories. But these people are so convinced that every decision Trump's making is a business move that they're ignoring the truth in plain sight, right? He's the one bartering the deal with Russia and Ukraine. He's involved in all these world affairs, right? On top of the fact that Greenland and Canada all of a sudden becoming one. Again, if Biden was doing this, people would call it out. They'd say this is a new world order, this is a globalist scheme. Let's not fall for it. But when Trump starts talking about minerals and business deals and prosperity for America, that's all that these suckers seem to need to hear. So they're carrying it out right now in front of us. We are seeing land, seas all around us, the golden dawn, so to speak, the golden age, where we're seeing countries expand their territories into 10. That's what's happening right now. I thank everybody for being here. Hope you're all doing well. God bless you and your families as always.